camp and one from the Chris Christie camp. And now, me personally, I knew that they were there because before I was the first one to speak. And before he introduced me to get up to get up to the podium to speak, he said that they were going to listen to me, and then we're going to listen to a couple of representatives from the Carson campaign and the Christie campaign. And frankly, it did not register with me at that particular point in time, because frankly, I don't care about the representatives from these campaigns. I really don't, because they're all over the place. So I got up there and spoke, and I gave my speech like I was going to give it anyway. And it was half memorized, half off the cuff. I love doing that kind of stuff. Again, makes me unpredictable. And it also makes it so every speech I give isn't exactly the same. Makes it interesting. So people who might want to see me more than once, they're not going to get the exact same thing. They're not going to hear the exact same thing. They're going to get the same constitutional conservative message, but they're not going to get the exact same speech, because it's geared towards those particular people or that group. And that's why I do it that way. And it keeps people on their toes, and it keeps them interested, because they know it's that when I'm talking to them, I'm talking to them. So I was halfway through the speech, and I mentioned names, people that I'm asked all the time about who I would rather see if I'm, behind anybody right now, and I'm not, but I could tell you who I'd rather not see. And I mentioned a couple of names. Well, one of the names was Chris Christie, because I said rhinos. I think Americans are tired of rhinos, and I said I believe that Chris Christie is one of those, along with another candidate. Now, again, I wasn't even thinking about the Chris Christie representative being in the room. Not that it would really have mattered. So after my speech was done, they asked if they could go through a question and answer session. I said, sure. Why not? Now, in the question and answer session, I did not mention any candidate names. I didn't. But I definitely hit on candidate platforms and what I believe was truly constitutional conservatism. Boy, there's a tongue twister. And what wasn't. And I don't remember exactly what the topic was or the question was that I was answering. But as I was answering it, the Chris Christie representative stood up and walked out. That's right. That's the first time I have ever seen that happen. I made a representative from a presidential campaign walk out of the building. Now, it wasn't something that I was particularly caring about, but I just thought it was interesting. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to ask him because he took off. I didn't understand what upset him so much, because he took off. He was gone. He walked out of the building. So when I got done with, my part of the event, I left, and he was nowhere to be found. He took off. I didn't get the chance to ask him what set him off that made him walk out. I wasn't going to apologize to him. I just wanted to know what exactly it was that I wanted to know why he walked out. If you cannot sit in the fire for your candidate, then maybe that's not the candidate for you. No, it's not maybe. That person definitely is not. If you cannot sit through all the bashing that your candidate is going to take, then he or she is not the candidate for you. I mean, if I pick a candidate, look, when Mitt Romney was the nominee back in the last presidential election, he wasn't my first or second choice. But after he was a nominee, I stood for him because I knew he was going to be better than Obama. And there was no way in hell that you were going to get me to leave anywhere, because I was going to stand in the fire for Romney and promote him, because we needed him in the White House over Obama. Now, if you cannot support your candidate already that way, then your candidate's already lost. I'm just being frank here. If you're going to get behind somebody, so this is why I'm not behind anybody yet, because I'm still weighing the options and listening to people, and we can, let me tell you something else. We all know now. I got to be frank. The most of the there was only one female in that group. I was talking to a group of men. The one female was the representative from Carson's camp, and then of course the other Christie representative was also a male, but the entire room was full of males. So I had to gear my speech towards the men. Unfortunately, she was the only one, so I tried to every once in a while to include something for her that would pick her interest. But and by the way, I complimented Carson, so I'm sure that made her feel good. But it was geared towards guys because it was a room full of guys. And I got to tell you, excuse me, a tickle in my throat. I got to tell you, those men weren't particularly interested in Republican lights either. The questions that they were asking me were rather pointed, and I know some of them were trying to trip me up to try to see if I was really as conservative as I said. And I think I surprised each and every one of them by coming down on the side of constitutional conservatism so hard. I think I surprised some of them. Look, I'm telling you folks, I'm no joke about this. I know it is not a perfect governing document. The Founding Fathers knew it was not a perfect governing document. That is why they made it so it could be changed from time to time as the people wished it. One of the things I hear sometimes from the left, well, we can't go for a constitutional amendment because it's not easy to do. Well, that's the point. It's not meant to be easy to change. They made it hard for a reason. Because whatever you do to make an amendment, it has to be argued, it has to be reasoned out, it has to be properly penned, written, for those of you in Rush Limbaugh's Rio Linda, and then properly presented to the people. That's a long, difficult process. It was meant to be a long, difficult process. It wasn't meant to be easy peasy. And so we have amended the Constitution from time to time since those days from whence it was adopted, 1886. Or excuse me, 1786. Did I say 1786, excuse me. It has been amended, so it's not impossible. It's been amended numerous times, so it's not impossible. But it was meant to prevent being amended at every possible little thought whim that we the people think that we're getting our heads. And it prevents certain peoples and groups from dictating how the Constitution is going to eventually look. That's why it is difficult to amend. It is to make sure that it is what the people want. The majority of the people, not a few of the minority. And right now we have the minority, that's totally ignoring the Constitution and trying to go to the courts. And the courts are, of course, a lot of times, if they got a liberal judge, the courts are ignoring the Constitution and just writing law on the bench, which is unconstitutional. I got to tell you, I'm done. I am done trying to follow unconstitutional laws in this country. If a judge writes a law, it is unconstitutional, therefore an illegal law, and I am not bound as a citizen of this country and a citizen of this state to follow an illegal law. It is like a military person is not bound to follow an illegal order from a superior officer. Plain and simple. I'm done trying to follow these people. I am done with it. Now, if it's a controversial law, if it's a law I don't think that should be a law, that's a different story. But if it is plain as day that it is an illegal, unconstitutional law because it was written from the bench, and that means, you know what? Obamacare, those people better come and get me. I'm saying it on the air. I do not have an insurance plan that meets Obamacare standards because I don't want or need their crap, and I'm not going to spend my money on it. Plain and simple. It's not a legitimate, constitutional, legal law. The Supreme Court usurped their power. They changed the damn law in order to make it legal. It's not written as the law was written by Congress and signed by the president. It's not. Therefore, you have two conflicting laws. Two laws that say the same thing, but they're conflicting because the Supreme Court thought that they could go ahead and rewrite it to make it say something that it did not say. That is illegal. Not even the Supreme Court, according to the Constitution, has that power. I will not follow an illegal, unconstitutional law. And I think if more Americans did the same thing, then that's what we should do, and we get less of this crap. So these wonderful candidates, no, I don't care if it's for president or if it's for Senate or if it's for the House or whatever. If they tell you that, that they hem and haw on repealing Obamacare, you drop them like a lead anchor in a saltless sea because they are not worth your time. If they will not stand up for the Constitution and defend it, then they do not deserve your vote. Now, I'm going to be straight up with you on that one. And I don't care who it is. If they cannot see and be willing to fight for this Constitution, then why are they running for office? Why? And yes, I was asked again, am I going to be running? No, I'm not running for anything. I'm not running for nothing. You know what? I don't have time. I don't have time to be fooling around with a bunch of people who really don't care anyway, except for their own little selfish self-interest. I don't have time to deal with all the politicos down in Washington, D.C. I don't. I don't think they're worth my time. Ooh, Rod thinks he's a big man. Even a congressman isn't worth his time. No, they're not. Look, I'm a human being. They're a human being. We each have 24 hours in a day. We each have a finite number of days on this earth. So, yeah, to me, my time is more valuable than theirs. And if I'm going to spend my time wisely, it has to be with people that I think I should be spending it with. And I don't think I should be spending it with them because they're not worth my time. It has nothing to do with whether or not I think I'm better than somebody else. It has everything to do with, are they actually worth my time? And let me tell you something. They're probably not worth your time either. So it's not just me. I'm saying they're probably not worth your time. Most of those congressmen and senators down in Washington are not worth your time. So if they're not worth your time, they're not worth your vote. Get what I'm saying? If they're not worth your time, they're not worth your vote. And right now, there's a bunch of people down in Washington, D.C. that just are not worth my time. Now, fortunately for them, I don't have the opportunity to vote for or against most of the people down in Washington. But I'm sure going to be looking for a candidate who is worth my time. That's who's going to earn my vote. And if I have to bite my tongue and hold my nose in order to get a somewhat conservative person in there over a Bernie Sanders or a Hillary Clinton or whoever else that the Democrats decide to throw up there, I guess I'll do that. But I can tell you this, there isn't a single Democrat that I can see that will ever, ever, ever be worth my time or my vote.